secret documents that have now been shared with the NTV Investigations Unit. It all began in the very first cabinet meeting chaired by President William RUTO.
Frederick, how are you?
In that meeting held on the 10th of November 2022, Investment, Trade and Industry Cabinet Secretary Moses Kuria and his agriculture counterpart Mithika Linturi presented a brief to the cabinet codenamed CAB Inset 2272. That brief was to seek for the importation of maize, beans, rice, sugar, wheat, soya, cooking oil and fertilizer. In the cabinet meeting, please note, the reason for the importation given by Moses Kuria and Mithika Linturi was to assist in lowering the cost of living. It has taken the NTV Investigations Unit 7 months to uncover that a lot more went into the deal than just the flurry of inter-office letters and documents. What we have before us is an indication of how oily, shadowy and connected individuals may have walked away with some 5.6 billion shillings at the expense of the government. But as it would appear, top government officials were involved in aiding what comes across as coordinated tax evasion. In the midst of an economic downturn and a skyrocketing cost of living, taxpayers stand to lose billions of shillings through the Kenya National Trading Corporation, which imported the edible oils through companies that are connected to people in government. It emerges that the companies were deliberately placed in the way of a smooth importation process, that despite having the capacity to procure them from countries of origin, the Kenya National Trading Corporation awarded tenders to middlemen, leading to the possible loss of billions of shillings. In October 2022, the cabinet approved the duty-free importation of 125,000 metric tons of edible oil, together with the similar importation of maize, rice, sugar and beans. However, glaring inconsistencies in documentation now put the spotlight on the Kenya Revenue Authority and the Kenya National Trading Corporation over blatant disregard of procurement laws and massive tax evasion. Dozens of documents in our possession can now confirm that both the National Treasury and KRA applied the wrong provisions of the law to approve the imports. A circular in our possession approved by National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Professor Njuguna Ndungu to the Kenya Revenue Authority approving the duty-free importation, copied to the Cabinet Secretaries Moses Kuria and Mithika Linturi, and an internal memo by KRA are both misleading by citing Section 142 subsection 2 of the East African Community Customs Management Act 2004 and paragraph 20 part B of the 5th schedule of the Act for the approvals. The Treasury Circular states that in view of the above, the Cabinet Secretary, the National Treasury and Economic Planning on 20th of January 2023 approved the duty-free importation of the above-mentioned products by KNTC in line with paragraph 20 of Part B of the 5th schedule of the East African Community Customs Management Act. The other document was the KRA memo that states the approval is in accordance with the provisions of Section 114 subsection 2 of the East African Customs Management Act and the provisions of paragraph 20 of Part B of the 5th schedule to the Act. The leaked document is a departure from the law it purports to follow. The East African Community Customs Management Act, that very Section 114 subsection 2 that is quoted, states that duty shall not be charged on the goods listed in Part B of the 5th schedule to this Act. The goods in paragraph 20 of Part B being quoted talks of relief goods imported for emergency use in specific areas where natural disaster or calamity has occurred in a partner state. Goods for emergency relief purposes of such quantities and within a specified period imported by the government or its approved agent or a non-governmental organization or a relief agency. At least with that, we see that there is no provision in law that empowers the Treasury CS to waive duty under the quoted Act except for emergency relief goods, and even then, it must be with the express approval of the East African Council of Ministers and published in the East African Community Gazette notice. Any such tax waiver must be expressly approved by Parliament. NTV has established that the goods by the Kenya National Trading Corporation were imported in full contravention of the law. There has never been a Gazette notice published on the same as required. We can now report that the Kenya Revenue Authority wrongly used Kenya Gazette Notice number 250 to authorize its officials to clear the imported oil. But it is a misleading reference in view of the fact that this is a Gazette Notice issued by the government on the 21st of November 2022 by the President under Order number 2 of 2022 to form the National Steering Committee on Drought Response. It is not clear why the Kenya Revenue Authority, despite having this information, decided to use the wrong Gazette Notice. Treasury Cabinet Secretary Njuguna Ndung'u had an answer when we asked. Tonight, we can show that the Kenya National Trading Corporation officials single-sourced several companies to import the oil and sell it to KNTC instead of importing it directly from the manufacturers in Malaysia or Indonesia. Among the companies awarded the local purchase order was Shehena Trading Commodity Limited, Multi-Commerce Free Zone Company, and Chama Holdings Limited. NTV has established that details of one more company are yet to be made public. In the first consignment that arrived in Mombasa early April 2023, the importer's landed cost for a 20-liter jerrycan of cooking oil is $20. That translates to some 2,740 Kenya shillings. Kenya National Trading Corporation bought from the importers CIF Mombasa at a price of $26, translating to some 3,618 Kenya shillings, excluding VAT. Simply put, we are saying the importers will pocket $6 per jerrycan of oil brought into the country. At the end of it all, they will earn a massive $41.5 million, translating to 5,651,250,000 from the import of the 125,000 metric tons of edible oil. According to documents in our possession, the first delivery of 300 containers at the Mombasa port, the KNTC paid 16% VAT, but not customs duty and other levies. The Kenya National Trading Corporation bought a single jerrycan of edible oil at 4,197 Kenya shillings before adding other port charges. If KNTC were to sell these products to the distributors, wholesalers and retailers as is mandated, they would have to sell it to them at 4,197 shillings after adding the 16% VAT, which amounts to 4,869 Kenya shillings. It is worth noting that a 20-liter jerrycan of locally manufactured brands that are not exempted from tax retails at 4,100 shillings in Nairobi. In short, the government, through the Moses Kuria and Mithika Linturi-led ministries, engineered losses not just through illegal tax exemptions but to the local buyers too. The imported cooking oil turns out more expensive than the locally manufactured one. The Kenya Revenue Authority memo states, the Remissions and Exemptions Office shall facilitate the issuance of an exemption code to exempt 100% import duty. The other taxes, fees and levies shall be payable as per the applicable laws. However, the customs entry documents in our possession for the 125,000 metric tons of edible oil reveal that KNTC did not pay the following taxes. That is 35% in customs duty, 3.5% import declaration fees IDF, the Railway Development Levy at 2.0%, Agricultural Food Authority Levy 20%. This amounts to a total of 42.5 in taxes. And with that, the figures show that the whole import plan will generate nearly $76 million. That translates to some 10 billion Kenya shillings waiver in taxes that the government granted to Kenya National Trading Corporation. Despite these damning revelations, the good professor at Treasury says the plan was to save money.
We're trying to close the gap on the supplies in the domestic market and the demand, and why cost escalation has come in. So most of the products, I don't know why you specifically focus on some, most of the products like maize, for example, we don't have the supply. We know the season will come, isn't it? But for now, for us to lower the cost of living, we had to bring in supplies. Those supplies must come duty-free because the impact itself will be reduced.
As it stands, for now, taxpayers will lose over 9 billion shillings through the KNTC. Its intention to provide cheaper commodities, including cooking oil, remaining a pipe dream loss-making business. KRA, that is pushing for more revenue, will lose nearly 10 billion shillings in tax, courtesy of connected individuals walking away with a tidy profit of $41 million, that is 5.6 billion Kenya shillings, gone with the wind. And the pain of high cost of living remains to bite. Brian Obuya, NTV.